Bienvenue à tous, merci de votre participation. Pour écouter notre session en français, veuillez cliquer en bas de votre écran sur l'onglet Interprétation et sélectionner le drapeau français. Merci.
On behalf of ICLEI Africa, the African Center for Cities, Our Future Cities, Surge Africa, and the Red Cross Crescent Climate Center, we are delighted to welcome you to the Rise Africa 2024 Action Festival. Rise Africa is a platform that brings together thinkers, doers, and enablers to inspire action for sustainable cities. This is our 4th edition of our Rise Africa Action Festival, which brings together insights, practices, and visions from across the continent under this year's theme of Solutions Only, Failures Also. This year's theme provokes us to change the way we view our cities and approach their development, particularly to promote a solutions orientation to our worldview. The festival invites you to embrace different ways of knowing, to seek ways to bridge science, policy, business, and arts in creative ways. It invites you to forge new partnerships, experiment with new concepts and ideas, and drive change in your homes and communities. This year's festival, we are running a social media storm to share how urbanization is happening in Africa, that cities can be centers of possibility, and how we can inspire action for sustainable African cities. Please share these for the days of the festival, including Africa Day, the 25th of May. As is tradition, we invite you to enter this session in a spirit of creativity.
يطيب العيش هنا في إفريقية بالهدوء والسلام والرفاهية، وفي قارة الخيرات السبع الكل ينام متعبا من الشبع، لا فقر لا عنف ولا جوع، لا ظلم لا قهر ولا دموع. نحتفي بالتنوع والتعددية، نزرع بذور التسامح ونقطع جذور العنصرية. يطيب العيش هنا في إفريقية حيث العدل والمساواة والسلمية، وقوانين وسياسات وأنظمة ديمقراطية ومشاريع تحفيزية، والحب والسعادة والحرية. ننعم بثرواتنا الطبيعية ونعالج المشاكل المناخية. كم يطيب العيش هنا في إفريقية. سمعت صوتا يقول هذه الحكاية، لا أدري إن كانت هذه النهاية لحلم راودني أثناء النوم، أو ربما هو صوت من غد أفضل، وهذه البداية لحلم يتحقق مع أحفاد اليوم. ولا أدري ما الذي يجب أن نفعله نحن الآن ليطيب العيش في إفريقية، وكي لا نعود إلى زمن الخوف والاستبدادية، ونتخلص من مهرجي الشعبوية ومطبلي النظام والدكتاتورية.
Good afternoon, everybody. And if this is the first RISE session that you're joining today, welcome to the RISE Africa 2024 Action Festival. Starting on an appropriately creative note from that amazing poem, today we are talking about photography and celebrating our amazing shortlisted entries for the RISE Africa photography competition. So in case you've just joined us, you are tuning into Capturing the Essence, photography's role in unveiling Africa's urban realities. My name is Ruby Chalet, and I'm going to be your host or facilitator for today's session. Just a little bit of background about me. I am a professional officer at ICLEI Africa, and I've been working in communications here for the last 3.5 years. And normally my role at RISE Africa is very much on the other side of the laptop. I'm being involved in most of the communications and the background work that goes into putting this festival together. So I'm super excited this year to be coming at you face to face. And this is something this photography competition is something that has really inspired me at this festival every year that we've run it. We've run it for the last 4 years. And I'm really excited today to have a moment to sit and reflect and make meaning of our photographs, because they are so inspirational, so personal, and they tell incredible stories about our African cities that the world needs to see. So today is really just about having an open discussion. It's about holding a space, and I really want everybody to kind of feel like they can join into that space in a spirit of openness and generosity. If you want to turn on your cameras, you can feel free to do that. I think I'm coming through on your speaker. So yeah, if you want to...
Voilà, si vous voulez allumer votre caméra, faites-le. Il serait bien, n'est-ce pas, de voir vos visages, savoir à quoi vous ressemblez avant de vous engager autour des débats.
Like where we can't share, because really it's all about learning from each other and seeing how best we
échanger et essayer de voir comment ensemble nous pouvons évoluer.
With our ideas about the urban and what we can do with these photos, and how we can take them forward. So the way that the session will run today, basically I'm going to give a little overview of the RISE photo competition, and that will give me an opportunity to share some winners from previous years. And then we will have a presentation from our amazing guest today, Seth Krige, who's here from Cape Town. And then we will give an opportunity to some of our photographers who are in the room today to say hi and to introduce themselves. And then we can go into our breakout groups. I think based on the number of participants today, we can probably have 2 smaller groups, and we'll go through a mural board, which is like a virtual pin board. And we can think of it as like a exhibition walkabout sort of, and we can look at the 12 shortlisted photographers of this year's competition and just talk through what our responses are to pictures, what are they making us think, what are they making us feel, what stories are they telling about our cities. And if you're lucky, you might be in a group with one of the photographers and they can give you more context on their photos, which would be cool. And then after that, we'll all come back into the room and we can kind of reflect on some of the things that are coming out of our discussions. And then Seth can give us a little closing. That's it. So I'm looking forward to a very interactive discussion today and having, spirit of generosity and openness in this space with all of us. So I will start with a little presentation that I've made. Just to give us a little bit of context about what this photo competition actually is. Can you see my screen? Okay, started at the end. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, cool. Yes. So also peppered throughout this this presentation, I've had to add some of our amazing photographs that came out from this year and previous years, just because I'm so obsessed with them and I feel like they are so so inspiring and they say so much. So today we are going to be talking about how photographs help us capture the essence and unveil Africa's urban realities. So why photography? Photography helps to reveal personal narratives. It allows us to see deeply personal stories. And most importantly, I think this is one of my key things, it shares stories about Africa from within Africa. So by having this photography competition that invites African photographers to enter and share their stories, it allows us to build this base of storytelling from within Africa, which I think is really important. And why I love photography is also that although it can answer questions, it also asks a lot of questions. So it's necessarily nuanced and it captures a lot more.
Plein d'autres. Cela recense beaucoup plus que les paroles peuvent dire.
So like I mentioned, this is something we've run for the last 4 years. And it came out of like sort of 3 things, but the one being that the world needs more authentic African urban imagery. For those of you who work in communications, this is something that is sorely missing. And as a communications officer, this is something that bothers me all the time, is that the pictures that we share, the pictures that we find in global databases about Africa and from Africa are just not authentically what our cities and what our continent is about. So for me, I think the Rise Photo competition helps to provide a platform to showcase our stories about Africa from within Africa and shares those authentic stories with the world. And that's why I always feel so inspired by these images as well. We also wanted to create a platform to celebrate the exceptional artists on our continent. And if you have seen our Instagram page, Future African Cities, you would see that we have a wealth of beautiful photographers there, and we're building a real network of photographers on the continent, which is really exciting. And then, these photography competitions, they answer, they're a call to answer a theme. So they use creativity to communicate our unique African challenges, culture, solutions, champions, ideas, failures, experiences, and all towards inspiring action. So just to run you through some of our themes that we've had, and these were our winners from these years. So in 2021, we had the theme, My Afro Future City Is, ... And each year, the theme of the photography competition speaks to the theme of the overall festival. So in this year, the overall theme of the festival was Next Urban Champion. So we were really looking in quite a futures-oriented mindset. And this was our winner from that year, Daniel Atta. And in 2022, our theme was Creativity, Agency, Urgency, City Scenes. So that year, the overall theme of the festival was Creativity, Agency, Urgency. And this addition of city scenes that was provoking photographers to look at the theme from within a neighborhood and city lens. So Ghana Must Go, he was our winner in that year. He's entered our competitions quite a few times, and he's got some really, really beautiful images. A lot of these entries are also part of a bigger story of photographs. Again, not to keep plugging the Instagram, but if you want to go look at them, you can go have a look on our Instagram. They've got each of the photographers has got its own sort of reel, and you can go look at those photographs there. And then last year, our theme was the cities we want. And really we provoked photographers with this theme directly. What are the cities we want? And we got some really positive and inspiring images, and also complex and nuanced stories about what people are seeing in their cities. So this is our winner from this year, and you might have seen some of these photographs on our Rise advertising for this year. And then 2024, I've done a sneak peek of one of our shortlisted entries. So this year, the theme of the overall festival is solutions only, failures also. And we interpreted that as the photography theme as everyday possibilities from neighborhoods to cities. So just to go a little bit further into what our theme was this year, we invited people to listen closely to their cities, their neighborhoods, and the streets coursing through them. We asked them to question their daily experiences and to see the possibilities that the environment presents to the world around them. And most importantly, tell a story about the transformation of everyday elements of urban life in the collective hands of passionate, creative people in the pursuit of adaptable, prosperous African cities. So, the prompt itself is quite inspiring, and especially as a creative person, is really something you can make beautiful photographs with. And we asked photographers to, which inspiring people, places, and projects could serve as examples for others to follow in everyday life. So we really wanted people to look at the neighborhood scale, the most individual scale, and to tell these stories. And how can the imaginative use of light, color, and composition champion the existing triumphs and limitless potential of your African city? So to take it back to photography, how can we use photography to share some of these ideas? So you can see, just to take this one as an example, the use of really bright colors and, the way she's positioned the person in the foreground like this, you can see that's really highlighting this and changing our kind of initial perception of how we think about slums, because you can see this is called the bright side of the slum community. So just, I'm starting to get excited about discussing the photos, but basically, just one last thing to mention, we had 190 entrants this year. We have 12 shortlisted images, which we're going to be discussing today, and which you can view on our little exhibition page and also on our Instagram. And these are going to be whittled down into 2 finalists and 1 winner, and we will announce those this evening after the session. And yeah, lastly, I just want to leave you with this last slide just to start getting your heads into the responding, thinking, questioning mindset of this session. So we can start to ask ourselves, what do these photographs reveal about our African cities? What story do they tell? How do they tell it? How do these photos resonate with me? What actions do they inspire? What can they tell me about my own city? Who needs to see these? And what do these photographs make me feel? So yeah, we can return to these questions, and we will return to these questions as we go into like more of the discussion part of the session. But yeah, so now that I have spoken a lot, I'm going to pass on to Seth to give us a short presentation. And yeah, Seth is a cultural worker, curator, researcher, and writer based in Cape Town. He has experience working between various museum, urban, and cultural contexts. His practice sits between the realm of curatorial praxis, urban studies, art education, and independent research. And we are honored to have him here today to set the tone for our activity and discussion, and to get us thinking in a more critical way about the potential of creativity to unveil our urban realities. So Seth, I will pass on to you.
Cool. Thank you so much for that introduction, Ruby, and greetings to everyone who's with us online. Yeah, as Ruby said, my name's Seth, and I'm based in Cape Town as an art curator, as well as then as an urban researcher. So for me, this is kind of a very interesting background to kind of come from, just because within these two lines of work, they in some ways are very similar. They're both essentially spatially focused subjects. If you think about it, museums are designated to curate a
Pensez par
particular
exemple à la musique,
within our viewing of art or photography, and it's the exact same with the cities, or cities in our own right, which can say also model to create a particular mode of efficiency. Although cities, I think, have more kind of nuanced attributes towards them. However, a big and important mark of both of these professions between urban and kind of the cultural sphere is that they're both associated with various publics. And I use public within a plural setting very purposefully, because there are multiple publics at play within our spatial and urban planning regiment. There's the notion of public space, the public realm, the public sector, and then there's the omnipresent public. So this idea of something designating the broadest sense of a people. And so given how both frameworks of the arts and urban development in some ways cater for these various publics, for myself, working between them has always kind of left me with, at some point, tensions, but I guess a larger set of questions. And for me, one question that constantly is emerging is, how can cities reflect the multiple publics that they seek to represent? And so for me, in trying to account for the question, I actually come back to another public, and that's this idea of public culture. And so this is an element of the city that is removed from statistics, but is rather located in the everyday, in the nuanced and intimate becoming of the ordinary. And so I actually want to speak to South African scholar Sarah Nuttall, who speaks to this idea of reading through space. And so Nuttall makes this argument that cultural readings often at times are able to locate more accurate realities within urban frameworks. And so, I mean, what she's essentially trying to say is that much of the reading within an African context is done via urban statistics, such as housing, or related to housing, related to statistics around food insecurity, related to statistics around underdevelopment. But none of these readings necessarily cater for how these attributes show and turn up within the day-to-day and lived experience of people on the continent. And so I just want to read one of the quotes that she says here. She says, "The larger question is therefore, how do we find a method of reading the social, which is about mutual entanglements, some of them conscious, but most of them unconscious, which occur between people who most of the time are trying to define themselves as different?" And so again, coming back to this question of how can we find ways of reading and understanding these entanglements, these multiple publics that make up these African cities that we're engaging with. And so for Nuttall, her form of cultural reading, she reads a lot of African fiction. So she reads stories based in Harare, based in Dakar, based in Lagos, fictional stories. And this for her informs a particular reading of cities on the continent. But if we're going to speak about cultural reading and informing a more nuanced understanding of the precarity and possibilities of cities on the continent, photography is even more paramount given the nature of photography holding a visual weighting within our perceptions of understanding. And so photography has been used as a medium in formulating a particular history and a particular consciousness. I mean, we can just easily think about advertising, in which photographs are used to sell a particular service, a particular product, or a particular set of ideas. But within the context of Africa, photography actually has a lot more of a sinister history. And so, I mean, an example of this is the empty land myth that was constructed as part of the colonial project. So the colonizers would come to Africa and they would remove people from their land, capture this photograph and kind of present this image that Africa was a geography or territory ripe to then insert the colonial, I guess, ideology and project. As well as then we can kind of think about these early anthropological photographs of Africa in which there's these essentialized images of the barbaric and the helpless subject. So these are early photographs of maybe a bare-breasted woman next to a hut, or a child whose ribs are showing in need of food and water. And so these a lot of the time are the images that are circulating that are informing a particular set of consciousness and a particular framework around our perceptions of the African continent. And so photography in so many ways has kind of been used to craft a misunderstanding on the continent. And so it is with that, that is then our responsibility to recontextualize and to almost misunderstand. Yeah, I don't write it. And so it is with that then that the photographers who are present, or the photographers who are shortlisted for this year's festival, they're not necessarily merely cultural producers, but they are urban developers. They go about developing stories and narratives that inform not just where we are on the continent, but where we can go. And I think as we kind of move through these photographs and as we look at them, I think I'd encourage all of us to think about to think about and be critical of maybe our general understandings of these particular cities and geographies that these photographers emerge from. So if you've never been to Lagos and you're now engaging with a photographer from Lagos, what is your perception of the city? What's informed that? And how can engaging with these photographs expand new understandings for us on the African continent? And so it's with that I almost want to say thank you to the photographers for doing the good work in expanding our cultural output, and beyond that, just expanding our ideas of what we see for the continent. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Seth. Sure, that was like such a great presentation. And you've given us so many things to think about. I mean, I love what you said about cities being curatorial spaces, and how can the city reflect multiple publics? I think that's such a loaded and important thing for us to think about, and especially in terms of how we use photographs to portray like what are the real stories of people in the city, and they can be vastly different or they can be very similar, but it helps us also to get an idea of a more descriptive idea of actually what's happening in our city, rather than this normative idea of what should be happening or how a city should look. And then just what you said about like how photography is being used in a negative way, particularly to inform people's misunderstandings about what Africa is. I think that is like, you know, yeah, that's a really, I mean, that's a huge topic to delve into, but it is so like relevant, and it speaks to, you know, it speaks to one of our like purposes of doing this photography competition, is really to showcase stories about Africa from within Africa. And so I echo what you're saying when you give thanks to the photographers for doing the good work of being urban developers and crafting our urban narrative. Yeah, I totally echo that. So yeah, thank you. I hope everyone's like getting into that juicy spirit of being critical and thinking about how these photographs speak to our African cities and our perceptions about what our African cities are. I think that's also important to be critical of like the positionality that we're coming from too. All of us coming from different cities as well. So yeah, I think we're going to move into breakout groups. I think we're going to do 2 smaller groups, which will give us an opportunity to have like some you know, more meaty discussions. So to do that, I don't know if there's anyone in the room who is French speaking, but I think in order to make the breakout groups a little bit easier, if everyone can rename themselves with either English or French at the end of your name. So you can just put EN or FR at the end of your name. So if you look at your like little tile on Zoom, your picture, there's 3 dots in the right-hand corner, and you can just click that and then select the rename option. So I'm doing it now, and then add the EN or FR to the end of your name. So you can see I just added that. And if you're struggling, you can always just write, and also write in the chat if you're struggling to get that going. And yeah, I think that's the last thing I wanted to say. I will share the mural board. Yeah, but everyone, actually, let me share my screen and just show everybody all together what the mural board looks like. So I'm going to share the link to this board, but essentially, if you've never used mural before, this is how it looks. There's a little description here of how to add comments, and then each of the shortlisted photographers are grouped here. So you can start wherever you want on the board, wherever your group chooses to start, and you can zoom in and then leave your little add sticky note and leave your comments over here. There will be a facilitator in both the rooms. So if you're struggling to like access the mural board, or if you're struggling to add sticky notes or whatever, somebody can always add them for you. And if you also, you know, struggling with the group dynamic or feeling like you just want to go through it on your own, that's also fine. I mean, this is supposed to be a collective discussion, but you are also welcome to just move around the board yourself and add your comments. This is all part of like a sort of larger meaning making, you know, project of us really trying to make the most of these photographs. And then lastly, actually just remember there's one more thing I wanted to do before we go into breakouts. I just want to offer our photographers an opportunity to introduce themselves and say, you know, where they're from and which photographs they were responsible for. I can see a few names in the room that I recognize as our photographers. So please, I don't know who wants to start, maybe, yeah. Whichever photographers want to start, you can just unmute yourself and put your camera on and say hi.
Hi, my name is Ismail Odesola from Nigeria. Hello, hi, can anybody hear me?
Hi, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Ismail Odesola from Nigeria. And my entry is the brighter future of the slum community. The bright future of your slum. That's me.
Your photographs are super beautiful, and yeah, excited to hear more about them. Thank you so much for joining us. Who wants to go next?
Hi everyone, can everybody hear me?
Hi,
Yeah.
my name is Andile Bala.
My name is Ogundele Arunde. I'm a photographer from Lagos, Nigeria. And I submitted the photos, the drone footage and drone photos of farmlands and people using available spaces for agriculture in settlement and urban areas.
Thank you so much. Yes, your entry is called The Resurgence. Your photo is also amazing. I'm very excited to get into those as well. I think Andile started introducing himself as well. Yeah, I'm not sure if Andile is with us, so maybe Benjamin, you go ahead.
Yes. Hi, my name is Andile Pala.
Benjamin,
you
can go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, good evening once again. I can't hear anyone.
We can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you, Benjamin. You can go ahead.
Can anyone hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Good evening once again. My name is Benjamin, and I'm from Uganda. And my photograph is titled Public Transit. Yeah, and humbled to be here and be part of this great initiative. Thank you.
Thanks, Benjamin. Yes, I know exactly which photos those are. They have a lot of vibrancy in them. I'm excited for everyone to see them. Okay, and then I think
Hi, everybody.
who else? Oh, hi.
My name is Oladipo Olateju. I'm responsible. Would I say responsible? Yeah, I took the Yemoja 23 photos, Yemoja Festival 2023 photos. Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm from Ibadan, Nigeria.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us.
It's a beautiful pleasure being here today.
Thank you. Yeah, your beautiful monochrome, yeah, the black and white photos, yeah, of the festival. It's something I haven't seen before, so also looking forward to getting to those. And then I think the last person was Andile. Is he still with us? Looks like he maybe dropped off the call. Okay, so to all our photographers, so thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting more with you. So I think we can go into breakout rooms. Yeah, Luca will put us into rooms now. And then we have about half an hour, and then we'll come back together and have a big group discussion after that. Oh, yeah.
Hi there, everyone. So before I divide us up into breakout rooms, I just want to check. We still have some participants still don't have either EN for English or FR for French next to their names. So could I please just ask those of you who haven't changed your names yet to do so now before we create the groups? Most important is to know which of our participants prefer French, because for interpretation purposes, then we will be using the main room for the discussion with those participants. So can I ask all those who haven't renamed themselves yet to quickly do so? I think I'll give us another minute or two for that, and then I'll create our groups.
It does look like most people are interested. Yeah, it looks like we have mostly English speakers in the room. So I think we could just break into two groups then, and then if anyone is struggling, they can just speak up and we can.
Okay, so I think I'm going to start dividing us into groups then. Bear with me while I handle the wonderful admin of breakout rooms. In the meantime, perhaps Ruby could share the link to the mural board in the main chat. Then everyone can access it so long and have that ready when we create our groups.
So I've just shared the mural board in the chat. So you can click on the link there and that should take you to, it's like a virtual pin board. That's what I keep thinking of it as. So you can jump in there in the meantime and start looking at the photos. And again, like if you have any trouble accessing it, it will be either myself or Seth in your group who will be facilitating the conversation. So we'll share screen and you can have a look at it there. So if you aren't able to open it or maybe you're on your phone or something and it's a bit difficult, don't worry about that. We can help you out. Is anyone having trouble accessing it? I'm also sharing the competition exhibition link in the chat as well. Hi. The interpreters will stay in the main room. So we'll do a main room and then we'll move some people. Yeah, so you'll just remain in the main room. But it doesn't appear that there are any French speakers. And if you are in the mural already and things are catching your eye, feel free to start adding some notes. There's lots to read as well in there. Okay, are we? Okay, looks like we are. Are we good? Are we in a room?
Yeah.
Okay.
This room is room 1.
Cool. Okay. Hi, everybody. Now comes the fun part.
Cool. Is everyone able to? Okay, I see a lot of people at the bottom. Okay, nice. Nice to see a lot more cursors. So yeah, so basically how we're gonna kind of be structuring this is, and I see we also have some photographers who are in the session with us, which is very exciting. So how we're going to kind of engage with this is, well, one, I just want to give everyone about 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, yeah, to familiarize yourself with some of these images. And then we're going to kind of go about this as a sort of exhibition. So we're going to be walking through these particular sets, kind of discussing the wider thematics that they engage with, kind of prompt. looking at what questions they kind of prompt from us. And I really, because yeah, the name of this theme for the RISE session is what it's solutions only, failures also. So I would like us to be quite like solution driven in some way, in which we look at these photographs, and I'd like us to kind of think about what are they saying and what can we do about what they're saying. So those, I think, are some of the prompts that I'd like us to all work through. But it'd be really nice if this is as collaborative as possible. It just makes it a lot more fun. But I think, yeah, I'll give everyone about 5 minutes just to look through the images. Please do, within the 5 minutes we have, try read some of the blurbs. And then, yeah, we'll begin the session then. So yeah, everyone can have 5 minutes now.
City photographers is that they tend to photograph the most invisible people in the city, and they make them visible and so beautiful, and like in a way relatable, because everybody knows that there's like a guy who's selling fruits on the side of the street or something like that, but it becomes almost like we create some sort of intimacy with the invisible groups in our cities. And I think these pictures are so beautiful because of the vibrancy and the colors of okay, sorry, hold on. I think the colors also speak to what the city actually is. The city is very robust. It's so colorful. I mean, sometimes the color doesn't come from something beautiful like fruits. It might come from something else. But when you step into the city, you always know that you're there because of the buildings, the people, the culture, and such. And I think these pictures really speak to that. And the subjects also speak to a lot of other things that are part of our city.
I feel like you can instantly tell that this is Joburg by the quality of the light. I'm always like, yeah, so struck by that. Obviously, it's a city that I'm very intimate and familiar with, but like I just saw one photograph from the series and I was like, that's Joburg. Yeah, and I love what you're saying about like this intimacy with the subject as well, and really like making invisible things in the city visible, and that's really like what this photo competition was trying to do this year, was to like reveal those everyday possibilities. Yeah, so maybe does anyone else have anything they want to add about this series? Feel free to just unmute.
Yeah, I can hop in. Just, sort of,
yeah, go for it, Tashi.
Snacking. That's why my camera is off. Yeah, I'm also originally from Joburg, and something that struck me about these pictures is the kind of bird's eye view of the people, and that you could see into their baskets from the top like that. It reminds me, it reminds me of Joburg as well, where things are higher up, or the city is built taller than perhaps in Cape Town. And yeah, it was almost jarring to see the side view, this one picture in black and white with the two chairs under the lamp outside. And yeah, it was weird. I feel much more comfortable seeing these pictures from bird's eye view, and I'm not sure why.
That's really interesting, because I almost feel like the bird's eye view gives me this feeling of like, not spying, but like I'm like peeping at like something that's happening, like that other people are doing. Whereas like the side view almost like makes me feel like I'm looking, but maybe the other person's seeing me too. Yeah. So I don't know, that's really interesting. I felt like it was almost more intimate, the one that's like side on, because like you feel like you're almost in the scene more than like, the positionality of being like above. I thought that was really interesting.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
With like this conversation about the different views, I think the bird's eye view also speaks to what happens in cities where we're a lot of times just observers to like the really gruesome underbelly of the city, and we just observe and it is what it is. And I think that the fact of these pictures is that these people were unable to be part of like the economy by like getting a job and such. So a big deal in South Africa is small and medium enterprises are that they can't get jobs, so they start to open their own businesses. We're an extremely entrepreneurial country. And I think these, like the bird's eye view, speaks to our just observing it because there's really not much to do, and the discomfort of having to be intimate about these conversations. Because I think even like the one where we're like at eye level, it still speaks to a side of our economy that isn't like a professionalized one.
Yeah, that's really interesting too. I mean, it's also like heroing the informal in many ways. And that's like, I really resonate with that. I think it is something that should be heroed rather than seen as this like thing that shouldn't be happening, you know. It's a response and a very valid one. I think that's, yeah, that's super interesting. So I'm thinking, since we have two of our Nigerian photographers in the room, maybe we can move to Nigeria. Where should we go? Maybe we can go, yeah, because I see our photographer is in the room. So do you want to offer us a little bit of context to this group of photos? Hola, Teju, are you there? Yeah, I'm not sure if he's there. Is there, who else is here that we can go to?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm here.
Ismail. Yes. Remind me which is your.
Yeah. That one.
This
No.
one? No. Which one?
Some community.
Ah, here we go.
That
Some
one.
communities. Yes, 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 yes. Great. Okay. Do you want to give us a little bit of context to these photos?
Exactly. So what gave birth to this project? Because it's a conceptual project. The fact that I grew up in Lagos and spend a lot of time moving around in Lagos. Uh, the slum community, it's a very large community, and it's not just Lagos. It's because doing my research, I get to know about the fact that there are several slums in Africa, and which have their neighborhoods and how they get to live their daily life in their neighborhood. But this is very close to where I actually spend a lot of time. And over the years, I get to visit this slum community, and I get to be part of it.
Et je fais partie.
Meet all these young people who are actually talented and brilliant, and they have a lot of things that they want to do, a lot of possibilities lies in their art, and but they are not, but the place does not give them a lot of opportunities. You know, these people belong to the water. These people live by the shore of the water. They live by they live their daily life on water. And you'll be amazed when you go there and you see them hawking their goods on water. You'll be amazed to see all of these things. But each time they have other things in mind, because most of their fathers and mothers are fishermen, and they are more, they are into other businesses as well. But this teen, because I believe the future of Africa is the young people. which is like that with every continent, where when you neglect young people, then you have neglected the future. So that was why I came up with the idea of this project, to be able to ask, because I had to assign each equipment, each work, um, each props to different people. I had to let them choose what they like. And over the years, these are people that I've known, and they talk about what they want to do and all of that. So the lady playing the music, the girl, the lady who is a model, the guy who has the Oculus on his face, the other lady who loves to read, who wants to be an educationist. All of these come together, and the guy who's holding a tab, who likes who loves to do that. So these are the things, that these are the possibilities that the city, you know, of the future would be. We can't do without all of these elements: the music, the people who want to go into different things, and the slum. Uh, Young people are part of the city, that are an integral part of the city, because they belong to the city as well. So this is, or we these are like this is a marginalized group, people who we don't really usually give the audience, and people who goes through their space always they don't see them as part of the city. They just see them as one of those people who don't really belong, of which they're gonna grow up and they're gonna be an integral part of the city. So if they are offered possibilities, so this is why I titled the work "The Bright Side of the Slum Community," to see them beyond who they are now, what we can see in them now, and what they can do in the future. So that's the that's the short long story of the project itself.
I love it. It's so interesting to hear like what your inspiration was. And so like each of these people who photographed, the way that they photographed is something that they said like they want to do, like one of their dreams. So the woman who's playing the saxophone, she like has a dream to be a musician.
She's a dancer and a musician. The lady who's the model, she brought all of what's it called, makeup, makeup kit, and this is how she likes to do. Everybody is being fit into what they really like, and all of that. It's not just me picking them. These are people that live there. I know them. I've spent time with them. So that was why it was very easy for me, because shooting in the community is quite hard. Shooting on the water itself, because it's shaky, and I'm not so we had to shoot in the middle of the community itself, moving from one place to another and all of that. So it's
so you're shooting on the water. So like you're on the water when you're shooting as well.
On the water, I have to be in a boat. They will be in another boat.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
that must be so difficult. Like just practically, like taking photographs while being on the water and getting them like.
So we have to do that, because I have to give the work an excellence. I have to give the work the touch that I felt, and I wanted the story to be original. I wanted the story to be so. This is the short long story of the project itself, and why I saw that as a possibility for the competition.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's so interesting to hear a little bit of background. So I can see Benjamin is also in the room. So we are going to fly from Nigeria to Uganda and look at these beautiful, energetic, vibrant photographs of public transit in action. So Benjamin, I don't know if you want to give us a little bit of background to the story. What story are you telling here?
Hi guys, hi once again.
Hi.
Basically, I in my journey here,
Oh, is everyone else lost? It seems like we've lost him. Okay, well, in the meantime, I mean, does anyone want to offer some insights into this photograph, something that this photograph makes them feel, or what they think about? I mean, this sort of typology of public transit is something we see in a lot of our cities. I know we see it here in Cape Town. I know, yeah, you see it a lot in Lagos, although the taxis might be yellow there. But yeah, can anyone offer any insights that they want to add here? For me?
Hi everyone.
Oh, hi.
I hope you can get me. So I'm
Yes, we hear you.
Dachomo, and I really love this image because of how happy the main subject looks, and it just, I see it as a way of you don't really need to have a lot to get happiness. He just, I think he's a bus. We call it a bus conductor here. So I think he's the bus conductor, but you can see him smiling and doing it with a lot of joy, and it just means that you really don't have you really don't need to have a lot to get happiness. With the little you have, you can be happy, and I can see so much joy in the image, and it's so beautiful.
I really love that you said that, because I think that we can also often depict like the systems that we have as so like inferior, or they don't look like how they, you know, this normative idea of how cities should look. But like sharing images like this, which show the way our cities work truthfully, and like people are joyful in that. I think that's really important, like to show images from Africa that speak to joy and color and, you know, all of the positive connotations that come with that. So yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the first thing that I saw in this photograph as well. It's like sort of happiness. Do you want to say something? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to quickly mute so Vida can say something. We're in the same room.
Hi. No, I actually wanted to add in, especially with what Ruby was saying about what there's a quote unquote view of normative approaches to transport and order with transport, but I mean, you called him a bus conductor. There's a different name from in every city. Others will call like this figure, this character, him as an individual, but then even the role he plays, that role we see in lots of African cities. And there's always that person who is there the loudest, that you'll hear them coming down the road calling you, that way you know your transport is on the way. But this is a person that we see a lot in our cities, and it's somebody who is like very much a big part of the way African cities work and operate and run. And while it looks different from like maybe the West, but this is what normal can be, and this is what normal is for us. So I love that this picture celebrates a key player in our urban narrative, and a key player in the way most people move about the city in a lot of
les principaux acteurs avec la façon sur laquelle les gens se mettent à travers la ville. En Ouganda, je pense que ils sont habillés donc au Nigeria c'est en jaune, en Tanzanie c'est autre. Je pense que c'est la même chose. C'est très beau. Vous voyez ce qui est célébré. Peut-être là c'est les zéros. Merci infiniment, Mia. Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous. Tel que je l'ai dit.
Differently across our African cities is something that's also quite universal about it. Thank you so much, Benjamin. I'm seeing that Hamza is in the room. We could move across quickly. I don't know how much time. We don't have tons of time left, but maybe Hamza, we can move across to your photos in Casablanca.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. My pleasure to be with you today.
So yeah, this is your beautiful photographs. So maybe we can just
voilà vos magnifiques images. Alors, dites-nous.
The series that you shot.
Yes, of course. Actually, I took these pictures during the holy month of Ramadan. And during these days, people fast the whole day. And most of the expressions you will see on their faces are a little bit, show a little bit of frustration, anger, because of the fast. Most of the people here on the pictures, they use nicotine. So taking pictures of them fasting is like showing an expression that we can see in all the pictures. So that's it. Basically,
That's
I
interesting.
try to explore the market and take pictures of people selling stuff, fruits, fish, olives, and spices and different stuff. And you can tell by the look, their expression is very frustrated and in the thinking, you know.
Yeah.
Like a picture with the guy in the middle with the spices. I asked him on top right.
Oh. This
on
one,
the
this
top.
one.
No, not this one, on the right.
Oh, on the right. Sorry. This guy.
Yeah, this guy. I asked him if I can take a picture, and he was like, "Hey, you can just keep." And he kept doing what he was doing. He was thinking. He was inside of a storm of ideas, I guess.
That's so interesting. That's such I didn't realize that they were taken during Ramadan, but it would be so interesting to compare like the look of people in the market during Ramadan versus after Ramadan, because I'm sure you'd like maybe see some maybe less grim faces maybe when people like you said. Also when you said that a lot of people take nicotine, is it because you're not allowed to you're not supposed to smoke?
Yeah,
Or you okay.
they're not supposed to smoke during Ramadan or the fast, during the fast hours. Yeah, we don't
really...
drink, we don't eat, and we don't smoke nothing till dusk.
Sure, like knowing that context, it makes these pictures even more personal, I think, because I think we can all resonate with that, like kind of like, maybe that feeling of like, you know, trying to get through the day and you're not feeling up for it, and like a little bit of frustration, and but I think it's also interesting that you said, like, you spoke, you know, obviously you asked for people's permission before you took the photographs. And it's not like people are putting on a front in the photos. They're like very happy for you to just like take it as it is and to like share it as it's happening, which is also quite cool. Like, you know, it's not like people are changing their behavior.
Before I take sometimes sorry, I interrupt. Sometimes I ask before I take the picture, and sometimes I take the picture and then I ask the permission to use the picture.
Okay.
And most of the time I prefer to take the picture before asking. So the guy in front of the camera don't change what he's doing, because when you ask them to take a picture, they start posing. And I don't want that in my photographs. I want you to take the picture as it is, of what's happening in the moment. And basically that's the main idea. It's to take the natural and the natural look and the natural exercise they are doing.
Okay, I see. I mean, I think like I mean, in a space like a food market, it can be very hard to practice, like, you know, taking photos, asking for consent, all of that kind of stuff afterwards, because sometimes it's like there's just so many people around. But in these photos also, it looks like relatively quiet. Is that because of Ramadan?
Yeah, it's because of the Ramadan.
Okay.
The Ramadan played a huge role in taking this picture, because you can see almost the same frustration on their faces. And sometimes the people in the pictures catch me taking a picture before I ask them sometimes. And you can see that is a little bit frustrating first, but when you talk to them kindly and you try to show them what you're doing and the picture they like it and they say, okay, that's nice. You can use the picture. It's completely fine. And also born in the old city of the Medina. So when I talk to them as a neighborhood, as a neighbor. So
okay, so this is where like you grew up here.
yes, I grew up here, and this is the market where we buy fruits and vegetables and meats and everything. It's like one of the oldest market in Morocco, in Casablanca.
Wow, that's super interesting. So you could go back and
the aesthetics of the stores, they are very old.
Yeah, you can get a sense of it from these pictures as well. Yeah, I found these photos to be like a real tour of the Medina, which was really cool. Like the way you've like shown different elements and different aspects and different people. It kind of gives you this like tour sort of feeling, like I'm like a little walkthrough of the space, which is really cool. So we have like 1 minute left. This went so quickly. Does anyone have any like burning questions or comments or things that they want to add? We didn't even get to respond to most of the collections of photographs. So yeah, you all have the link, I guess. So if you did also want to go back and add some more comments in your own time, you can do that. But does anybody want to add any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'll hop on. I really like the collection of pictures about the Yoruba festival, the 17-day festival where they celebrate.
This one.
Yeah, the water goddess. And so looking at the pictures, they're very moving in themselves and quite dramatic. But the caption really brought it home. Like it made me quite emotional actually. You look at the pictures, they're just beautiful, but when you understand the story behind them. So I would love to know a bit more about that, but I know we're short on time.
Yeah, we maybe have to have a part 2 of this session. But yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think as with all these photographs, when you read the description, and also like we've been lucky to hear from people, hear from the photographers as well. When you hear some more context and you read these descriptions, it like opens a whole like other dimension of understanding them, which is so there's what you see, and then once you read the description, it's like it's a completely different interpretation. And I agree, these pictures are like, they're dramatic and there's like emotion in them and there's a lot of movement. And I almost think like, I mean, I would imagine that if you saw them in color, they were like probably super colorful, but having them in black and white almost makes them more kind of heightens the drama of it as well. So like I think that color choice is really, really interesting as well. Okay, okay, cool. Thanks everybody. I think Luke is letting everyone back in, and then we can open for discussion with everyone. So I do see your hand. I'll come to, if anyone has their hands up, I'll come to you when everyone's back in the room. Okay, we're all back in the room.
Just bow.
Cool. Hey, cool. Well, I hope that the other group had a super interesting and reflective time going through these photos. Excuse me. We had some really insightful additions from our photographers as well, who helped to give us like some context to their photos, from both a sort of city perspective and understanding like, you know, what was actually going on in the city at that time or going on in the place at that time, but also from a practical perspective when it comes to like, you know, shooting from the water in one case, or like the practicalities of shooting in a busy space like a market, and like, you know, what that means for getting consent from people and what kind of photographs you can actually capture and stuff like that. So we have about 20 minutes for like a nice group discussion. And I'm very curious to hear from the other group, to hear what went down in your room. So maybe if somebody wants to volunteer to give us a little rundown of what was discussed, and then I think I will go to our photographers and ask them their responses to the photos. So someone from the other group want to enlighten us, or you can rely on Seth. It's up to you. Is anyone out there?
I don't mind starting this, or if somebody else is speaking as well. No. Yeah, so we had a great conversation. We were distracted by the pictures half the time because we just wanted to look at them and get into them. But I think I would say like maybe 3 things that we kind of spoke about was the concept of this being like a map of Africa. Like you can see the different cities coming through in the photos. And then also how these photos can flip the narrative of the concept of a city. Like a city is not just buildings, not just bustling all the time. There are moments of solitude, moments of quiet, nature. So how that can flip, how you can use this as a visual communication to change that script. And then we also shared about how this is also changing the typical thought you have when you see a picture of Africa, because often in pictures that we've seen before in stock images, as you mentioned in your intro, there's often like this typical photo.
Ces images également sont tout à fait différentes. Elle
even said when you're waiting for something to touch the African child's face, I can't remember what it was, but there's these very typical shots that people think of when they think of Africa, and this can change that. It shows you joy lives here, everything lives here, and I think from my side, I felt like I could see myself in these photos, where in lots of photos that you see of cities, you can't necessarily see yourself. But these are so authentic, and you can see that someone's telling a story in this photo, which is why you can relate to it. It's very relatable. And that was very, very special. We also had a photographer in our group, but I won't try and recount what they said because I think they maybe could get an help here. Very powerful.
Thank you so much, Jarita. I want to make a huge sticky note over this whole thing that says joy lives here, because I so resonated with that. And I love also what you said, that like you can see yourself in these photos. Like when you look at these photos, they might be from different cities, but you can resonate with like a lot of the things in these pictures. These pictures speak of Africa from how we know it, and I think that is super powerful, and that's such a great reflection. Olatejo, I think you were ready to say something when Jarita jumped in as well.
So I was about to say that I had internet issues for a bit, so I think I missed speaking about my work.
Oh yes, you were actually in our group, and then yeah, you dropped off. This was your collection, so we went ahead and still added our comments. But please, actually, you are more than welcome to give us a little bit of context if you want.
All right, thank you very much. So I do not know if you guys are familiar with African traditional religions.
There's so many. We don't even. Where do we start?
Yeah. Okay, so in my very peaceful and culture-loving city, Ibadan, we have a festival dedicated to a deity. a 14-day festival dedicated to deity, and the deity is called Yemoja. So yeah, a bit of background. The festival is, how do I say this? How do I say this? It's okay, so like in connection to the project, I believe that the questions we have for the future are in the past, and if we took our time to look at the past, we would be able to forge a better future. If we learn from the past, if we took things that worked from the past, we will be able to create a better future. And in this project, I look at a religion that has been with us for a number of years, centuries now. And even with the ever choking Christian Muslim religion, it still finds a way to bloom and finds people who have accepted it as it is. And for the longest of time, or for the longest while, these people were not allowed to celebrate in public or visibly, because the Christians and Muslims felt like, oh, they were idol worshippers, and this is something bad. However, in recent times, due to youth engaging this religion, they've managed to revive the culture, and now we see it thriving. I stayed in the festival house for about 4 days, slept, woke up, slept. So like a lot of these photos are from different separate days in the event.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so it was a very beautiful experience, and I had the opportunity to understand what actual communal living is like, because from my background, I have a Christian background, and in Christianity, it's more of an individualistic approach. However, in their setting, it's we live together, we are together. Any money that comes into the system goes around. It touches everybody. There's no one singular person that gets everything. Everybody, every arm is working, is doing something. So it's very great communal living, and I had not had the opportunity to experience that in basically all my life until I had the opportunity to photograph this wonderful event. So yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that backstory. And I love what you said about like the answers to the questions we have for our future being embedded in the past. That's so powerful, and like, yeah, it's interesting that you said like a lot of youth are like interested in returning to their like cultural roots, and these sort of more traditions, I guess. And yeah, that's super interesting. So thank you so much for giving us that context and giving us this little snippet into this culture. Thank you. So yeah, does anyone want to jump in, weigh in? Is there anything burning that you want to say?
Maybe just add to that just very quickly, just because I think, I mean, this session is kind of looking at photography as a tool in translating I guess our urban present, but also our urban future. But I think there's this conversation around how arts and culture can be used to account for these nuances that exist within our cities. And I think I just want to go back to the ceremony that you're referring to, and how, yes, the photographs in themselves are an art form, but the actual festivity and the actual ceremony, that's where the real art is located. I mean, if we look at how these people, that's where the real culture resides. So when we look at how these people are dressed, how they go about that procession of walking, how they go about engaging alongside each other, that's where the arts and culture is existing. So it always frustrates me so much when a lot of people speak about how art and other modes of culture is intimidating and inaccessible to so many. But if we look at images like that, we can see that it's constantly with us and it's constantly around us. And actually, the photography is just harvesting that for all of us to see so that we can move forward with that, because we already have it. Like you said about our questions from the future and the past, we have our questions, we have our answers, you know. It's just about harvesting them. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
love that.
yeah.
That's such a yeah, that's a really cool way of putting it. Like seeing these photos as like the vehicle for, I guess, sharing the arts and culture that are happening in these images. So it's, yeah, sharing stories, but also sharing culture. I think that's really cool, and kind of like reframing how we think about art. Like the art's not like the thing itself, it's the thing that it's like portraying, and so it's accessible in that way because it's the stories of people. So yeah, that's a great observation, Seth. I'm going to invite any of our other photographers who want to want to share anything, maybe something they've learned from one of the other photographers' images, or maybe they want to give some context on their images. You can just unmute and jump in.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Ugochukwu. My photo is the one of the guy under the bridge playing.
I love this photo.
Yes. So yes, let me give you a little bit of context. So for me personally, I believe that arts can exist anywhere. I like to observe, I like to people watch, I like to look for the in-between moments that make very ordinary moments magical. For everyone who kind of knows Lagos, Lagos is a place where you can't walk down the street and be alone. Like finding like yourself alone can only happen when there's absolute chaos, right? So Lagos is, I think, now 20 million and growing. So every corner is packed with people and someone. And for like here, it's like almost like in compare if you're comparing like places to New York, Lagos is one of those places. People are constantly moving, people are constantly walking, people are constantly hustling. You know, people are constantly finding new ways to get things done. And Lagos is a place where there are public parks, but people barely ever make use of these parks because of how unsafe it can be. And every version of a photo of Lagos you'd find, it's either a bunch of like buses in traffic or a bunch of like people just like in like a cluster. It's never like very how do I put it now? Very moments of solitude like this barely exist. So on top of this bridge, there's traffic literally in the morning and at night. And like right when I was taking this photo, it was I think like closing time. The top of the bridge was filled with cars and horns blaring from every corner. Then I stood for a little bit and I just saw this man. And like one of the things that stood out for me was how he almost like he's in his own little world where nothing else matters. All of the chaos of Lagos doesn't count. You know, this is the moment where he's in his moments and enjoying himself. And I feel like that's what almost every Black person, every Nigerian kind of hopes for. Moments where they are truly themselves without any obstruction or restrictions. Just truly, like being able to truly be themselves in the midst of all of this. Thank you. That's all I have to say about the photo.
I love that. And I mean, you've portrayed that so brilliantly in this photograph because it really gives that expression of like somebody just like having this quiet moment of like solitude and reflection. And also as a like someone who's accessing these stock photo databases, I totally get and resonate with what you're saying. Like photographs of Lagos, if you type in Lagos into anywhere, you'll just get like traffic, taxis, like this super busy vibe, which I guess does reflect like the city, because as you say, 20 million people and growing. And, you know, like you said, the people are hustling, people are moving, it's chaos. And so that does reflect the city. But equally, as Seth said, there are these multiple like realities within the city. And there are these moments of calm and solitude that people look for and people find. So to see a photo of Lagos like this is so like opposite to what we expect, but so authentic at the same time because it's existing. And like you said, people not using parks because they might not be safe, but like finding these in-between spaces to have those moments of calm. Yeah, and it's a really powerful image. And I love also that you chose like the black and white, because again, and I think this is kind of similar to the photographs just before with the festival, like we tend to also associate like our African cities with like a lot of color and stuff like that, which is like obviously amazing and adds to that like richness and that story, but we can also depict them as these like, you know, in black and white. It gives a slightly different feel, and adds a bit of drama and adds gravity. And, you know, yeah, I think your choice to make this black and white was also yeah, hope to show that. Well, that's my feeling. I mean, anyone else is welcome to. Yeah.
Can I add extra to
yeah, please.
the thing about like black and white? So for me, right, I think one of the things I aim to photograph is
L'une des choses qui m'amène dans les photographes, c'est je pense que les gens vont rencontrer ma photo et voir.
Of that is the longer you stare, the more you actually find something. So if you stare into this photo a little bit more, you'd find out there's like a blurred out, like there are boats in the background actually going on and about like their own lives. And there's almost like a trail of lights and line that in color, all of that might be missing. So one of the things I'm hoping to do is be able to like give, like it's a thing where, you know how painters paint and you'd find all of these like tiny hidden elements in their strokes and all of that. For me with photography, I aim for people to stare long enough, you know, an image that you always come back to and more to find extra. So one of the things I aim for all of the time when I take photos is to photograph feeling. And that was why I chose black and white, because black and white is great with just having you feel things. So yes.
I love that. That's really cool. And even just the practical element of what you're saying, like you can see these things more clearly in black and white that they might have not shown up. Like you might not have read them as like the things in the background, because now that you mention, I can see them. But yeah, that in color that might not have been as clear. So that's, yeah, very interesting. Are there any other photographers who want to jump in?
Hi guys.
Okay, go for it.
I'm Inyek Gil Dachumo, and my collection is everyday people. That's me, that's you. Yep, this.
I love the title of the photograph.
Yeah, so that was a very popular song when I was little here in Nigeria. It used to play in the radio and everywhere. So last year I was in Kaduna and I was having my NYSC.
Et je faisais mon service national. Et pendant ce temps, j'ai fait.
Because it was a new city that I've never been to. So I took it upon myself to explore, to meet new people and just document life in Kaduna. And Kaduna used to be the northern capital of Nigeria. So during that time, I was able to go out and just observe people. And I saw how time was passing and people were just into their normal lifestyle, working, selling stuff. And before I knew it, it will be 2 hours gone, 3 hours gone. And I was just so surprised at how fast time was moving. And everybody was just so busy with work and all that. So that was what inspired this collection, Everyday People, That's You, That's Me. And it just shows how fast life can move on and how busy it can get. But in all that, we should try to observe and document everything. And in the next 10 to 20 years, it's only these pictures that we'll have to see how Kaduna was in 2023 and all that. So that's just documenting the urban life of Kaduna. And that's what my collection is about.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I love the name because it makes me just like think of, I mean, this is a similar discussion we had about Andile's photographs, but just the idea of observing life passing by. And observing a moment in time as well. I think that's like really valuable. Like, as you're saying, just like documenting people going about their everyday lives. These are everyday people doing their everyday things. There's no sort of like statement about whether it's like good or bad, or, you know, there's no should or shouldn't in these photos. It's just what is. And I think, like, yeah, for me, that's like so valuable. Like, this is just showcasing a city where it's at, and doing that in a really beautiful and sensitive way. I mean, the colors in these photos are really beautiful, and there's a lot of movement in them as well. Like, every person in these photos is in motion, you know, no one's standing still. So I guess that speaks to what you're saying about like it was a day where the time just passed and everyone's just moving and everyone's doing their thing. And yeah, and you can clearly see that. And these photos that you took from like, that you've taken from like a sort of aerial perspective, were you standing like in a like a taller building or something to get the ones of the like the bikes going past, and this one as well, this like view from the top?
Yes, so I was on a bridge and I just stood up and I was just observing and capturing everybody. For these particular black and white images, it was when they announced the removal of the fuel subsidy. So the road was so empty and there were no cars that were passing. The road was just so less busy. So I got to capture a lot of moving cars, a lot of moving bikes.
Oh, that's interesting. And it's interesting. So this is the same, you were standing in the same place when you took these as this one as well, both from that bridge.
Yes, from that bridge.
It's so interesting how different the texture of the ground looks in those two photos. Like it in black and, like, you know what I mean? The use of black and white in these pictures like makes them appear so different. Is like the road itself is, you know, it gives that feeling of movement in black and white, whereas in the color photo it kind of like is more in the background and you're more focused on like the oranges and the woman walking. So thank you for giving us that little insight. Okay, I'm just conscious of the time. I don't know where it's going. I could keep doing this all day. But I think given that we are sort of running short on time a bit, unfortunately, I will just ask if there are any last burning things that anybody wants to raise in the group, or obviously feel free to write it on the mural board. And then we're going to pass to Seth to close off. But yes, Ayurinde, we can go one more edition.
Okay. I'll go over this very quick for time. My photos are the photos of the drone footage. I think it started the resurgence.
Resurgence, yes.
Yeah. So basically, when I got the drone, I actually want to capture area perspective of some certain place and see how people, the movement of people and everything. But I never thought I would be capturing Lagos like I've never seen before. And when I started to fly my drone, I started to notice some patterns with people and how they've changed over the years. Because when I moved to my new neighborhood, my current neighborhood, I noticed that there were some farms around, but I never noticed that it was same practice in a broader way. Like a lot of people are doing it. I just thought it was just somebody being opportunistic and using the soil that was vacant. But along the line, I started to notice that a lot of people are doing it, and land that are vacant are not being utilized. Because when I first moved here, I was seeing a lot of animals, a lot of flies, and there were a lot of monkeys. But along the line, because of urbanization and so forth, these animals were being pushed deeper into the bushes, and a lot of them, some of them do die. But along the line, recently, when I got the drone, I started to take areas perspective of how people are utilizing the spaces. And if you look at a lot of the pictures, most of them are not like designated farms. Most of them are where they are vacant farms, and they were used like they're using the opportunity to make the most of it. And if you look at the top left of the image at
This
the top
one.
left, you can see that there's a farm with a fence around it. Top left, yeah. You can see that there's a farm with a fence around it, and by the edge of the fence, you can see there's some white particles there, which is actually a dump site. You understand? So
Yes.
you see, I noticed that people actually take these things very seriously. But if you look at Lagos if you look at the main city and you look at Lagos, you're wondering how people actually have this initiative. But you never know. And so I started to document everything from place to place. And if you look at me, like the image here, where you can see there are some people playing football and there are some the open field and some other people. You can see the farms by the edge with a long path there. And along the line, I started to notice that most of these people in this locality are self-sustainable. If you look at the water there, I've seen people fishing on the water and I've seen people tilling the soil. So some of the produce from all this, they take it to the market and they sell it. People, people use it for consumption. And in turn, when the animals see that, okay, there are more vegetations in this place and it's being kept, because now the people that live around the place, they are more conscious of their actions. So, because you cannot just go and dump refuse in somebody's farm. You have to be careful about that. And their method of disposing refuse, incinerators and bush burning, they have to be careful about that. So I'm really glad that I was able to capture the change in attitude of how people respond to things that are essential.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting, like to see. I mean, from like sort of this scale of looking at these photos, I see amazing patterns and colors, and like from far. But then, as you say, when you zoom in, you start to see like these stories about how people are actually living their lives in this space. And what you're saying about this being a way for people to subsist, and to grow food and to fish and to provide livelihoods. I think that's really, really interesting. And you would also, again, like never look at these photos and be like, oh, that's Lagos, so that's again like a really valuable addition to our frame of reference about these places. Yeah, and super interesting, like you said, like thinking about drone footage also as a way to rediscover or reveal what's actually happening in our urban landscapes. Yeah, so that's because I mean something like this dump site next to the farm, like you maybe wouldn't see that disparity or see those two things existing side by side from like a person perspective, like on your feet, so it's really like there's a lot of potential in drone footage for like revealing these contrasts as well. So thank you, and thank you for your beautiful photographs. I'm sorry to do this, everyone, but I think it's time to wrap up. You do have access to this mural board. So if you are enjoying this process of going through and commenting on the photos, it will remain open, so you can do that. I will invite Seth to just give some closing remarks, and then we will release you. So Seth, feel free to jump in.
Cool. Yeah, I kind of just want to first and foremost thanks everyone for being a part of the session. And then beyond that, really want to thank the photographers who are engaging in this work, who are laying down a very important set of foundations for us to work from. Oh, the screen, cool. And I think something that has constantly been emerging. One thing is we're speaking about this idea of questioning the existence of people. That was something that came up in our session. And now in this one, we spoke about the space of a space to be themselves. And for me, what's super interesting about so many of these photographs is that they're crafting such an intimate experience. And so despite the kind of hustle and bustle, and despite these very fast movements, there's this crafting of intimacy. And I think if we can think about maybe this festival and its framework of this idea of solutions are only failures also, it's how can we, within our cities on the continent, how can we account for intimacy? And so how does intimacy translate within our urban planning framework? And so for me, it's thinking about these multilateral forms of urban engagement. So for me, these photographers need to be meeting the policymakers who are then meeting the planners and the developers. And through that, that's where we can kind of begin to cultivate our sort of urban future. And I think, yeah, I'd maybe just like to then again, thank the photographers who are really laying down much needed foundations in one, rebranding our associations and ideas of what urban development looks like, what urban progress looks like. And I think I'd end off with this this quote that was then now given in the session, which says, "The longer we stare, the more we find." And I think that's just something that I think all of us can take with us as we continue looking at these photographs and as we continue engaging with hopefully more images that translate, the rich and diverse set of experiences within the cities on our continent. So yeah, thank you again to everyone for being present, and enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you so much, Seth. I think you summed that up perfectly. And I like that you brought our words back to us. The longer we stay, the more we find. Very, very powerful statement, and something I hope everyone, I hope everyone takes from this session, and I hope everyone has taken a lot from this session, because I have. I'm like, now I feel like I've just loosened up. I'm like now ready to like get into that mural. So yeah, I echo what Seth has said. Thank you so much to our amazing photographers. Honestly, I'm so inspired by this work, and it makes me so excited to see these stories. And I really want to keep trying to give a platform to our amazing photographers on this continent. And I just thank you all for entering the Rise Africa photo competition and giving your time today to give us these backstories to your photographs, which makes it even more meaningful for us to look at them. And yeah, just to say that we're announcing the finalists and the winners of the photo competition later on our Instagram. So keep an eye out for that. And Luca is just posting a few things in the chat. So there's a link to the exhibition if you want to go and look at all the photographs all together, not in the format of the mural board. They're all there. All our shortlisted photos are there. You can also see them on our Instagram. And yeah, please give us a follow if you don't follow us already. We are trying to hit 10,000 followers by the end of this festival, and we are pretty close. So it might be you that's our 10,000 follower. And then I think we have a post-session survey as well that we would encourage you all to fill in when you have a moment, and maybe do that as soon as possible so you don't forget. And otherwise, we have 2 more days of Rise Africa. And then we also have a social media storm on Saturday. So I know there's a few social media savvy people in the room. So we are wanting to create a little bit of a storm on social media around Africa Day and around urban possibilities. We have created a Trello board and a Google Drive with some cards, social media cards that you can use, like pre-made cards with like beautiful quotes from previous Rise sessions. So you're welcome to go into the Trello and use those pre-made cards, or you could just share some of your beautiful photographs, because I know you all have tons of content. That's probably much nicer than what we prepared for you. And if you can share that with the hashtag Africa Day and hashtag urban possibilities, but you can find all that information in the Trello, but it would be great for you guys to be part of it, and to spread the word. And yeah, let's just celebrate our amazing continent. And yeah, a final thank you to everyone, and a special thank you to Seth for being our observer and cultural sense maker and curator in this session. So thank you, Seth, and thank you everybody for joining and giving your time and your reflections today. It's been super, super meaningful. Have a lovely evening. Bye, everybody.